Hello everyone and welcome to the official patch notes. Haha, you thought this was the patch preview. Not yet. The patch preview is coming very soon, so stay tuned for that because I will be reacting to everything and I will be diving deep into the Chinese PBE when that gets released. But before then, we have the final patch for patch 6.2, which is 6.2K. First time I've ever seen K, I think, in the whole of the alphabet when it comes to patch notes. But just a small patch to buff a few champions and nerf a few champions. We also have some item changes as well. I think these are just little tweaks to kind of get people over the edge for the end of the season. And of course, there's going to be big changes, as always, in patch 6.3 to do with runes, to do with items. So, of course, the whole meta is going to shift up once patch 6.3 releases in 2 weeks' time. Note that this patch releases on Friday this week, not Thursday. Usually the patch notes are on Wednesday, the patch from Thursday, but this week it's a day later. All right, let's go through this. So, Swain's rework has not really been too great, to be honest with you. I think the nerf that they did to the second ability was definitely unneeded. I think a lot of people have mentioned that already. Delaying it by 0.25 seconds actually makes quite a big difference. And because you're forcing Swain to build more AP and kind of make him be more of a squishy champion, it's very difficult to do that with Swain because the meta already is to do with one shots and is to do with a lot of burst champions, and Swain is usually really good against these melee champions, but they do so much damage that Swain can't sustain this damage over time because of the ultimate damage being nerfed, the AoE damage being nerfed, and the healing of course being nerfed as well. So they are giving him some base HP and base armor. I do like this change a lot. Again, it's going to help him in the early game, help him with some trades in the early game, and giving a little bit more tankiness in the laning phase. Then the passive soul fragment stack healing value. So the healing value is being increased, the base value is being increased, but the AP ratio has not been increased. They increased the base ratio by 1 at every single rank, so it helps you a little bit in terms of the healing value. But overall, like I mentioned, hasn't really hit the mark so far. Honestly, I thought the Swain previously was completely fine. I don't think that many people were building tank Swain, but now that everyone's building full AP Swain, he's just very squishy and gets shut down very, very quickly. So we'll have to see if the buff changes anything with that. Talon, another buff. Honestly, I think in patch 6.2, Talon might have received the most buffs out of any other champion in the game. Every time they tried to buff this champion, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't hit the right mark. I think assassins in general are definitely a lot weaker. I think with just how strong items like Death's Defiance are. Death's Dance, sorry, is. Death's Defiance is TFT for some reason. I don't know why I said that. But yeah, Death's Dance being very powerful to stop a lot of burst damage. Of course, you have items like Trinity Force, which assassins don't really build. So all the really strong AD items right now are all to do with bruisers. There's no real strong, you know, burst champion items, maybe Ghostblade and Serpent's Fang, but outside of that is very difficult. So yeah, another talent buff, cooldown going down by 5 seconds at every single rank, and the ultimate damage being buffed later on in the game, and also the AD ratio going up as well. A little bit buff to Talon. We have to see if he actually finally comes into the meta. I don't think this will do too much. It's just a little bit of a buff on the ultimate, but again, it's a champion that keeps on getting buffed, and if this keeps on happening, we know what happens to champions that keep on getting buffed over and over again, so we'll have to see about that one. Olaf, this is more of a nerf to top lane Olaf. It's been wreaking havoc really over in China. It doesn't really have the highest play rate, but Olaf right now with some item synergies are really disgusting. Zeke's convergence is just very broken. I think they should actually, instead of nerfing Olaf, because this is obviously nerfing Olaf jungle as well at the same time, I think instead of nerfing Olaf, we should really look at nerfing Zeke's convergence, because the item is just absolutely absurd on tanks, on supports, on even bruisers as well, like Olaf, because Olaf can just use his ultimate, run towards someone, and they're slowed the whole time. So it makes it very, very difficult for any enemies to escape Olaf or even try and dash away, because you take him slow and you're taking more damage from Zeke's convergence. But anyway, Undertow, the first ability, damage is going down. You can notice that the early game damage is not going down too much, but the late game damage is going down by quite a bit. You are scaling more with bonus attack damage though, which is quite interesting. So again, that's kind of what I was mentioning with Zeke's convergence being very powerful. It was a very strong tank item that gave you bonus damage, but now we have some more AD ratio on the first ability and the base damage is going down. They're trying to move people away from building Zeke's convergence and building other items instead, other AD items. Same with the third ability as well. This number is huge, by the way, 40 damage difference on the third ability at max rank, which is pretty nuts. But again, they're buffing the AD ratio, trying to get people to play more towards building AD. You do build a little bit of AD. Of course, Trinity Force is in there, Death Stance. Other than that, you build Zeke's Convergence, you build Twin Guard. That just makes you really, really tanky. So maybe players will try and go towards more the AD build, but I think items like Zeke's Convergence will still be very strong. Speaking of champions that just got buffed and buffed, Kha'Zix obviously got buffed 2 patches in a row in this patch 6.2 cycle, and has been one of the strongest junglers for the longest amount of times this patch. So he is receiving another nerf this time. The first ability, the cooldown, is going up. This actually doesn't really do anything at all, because now with Kha'Zix jungle you run Transcendence, and with Transcendence it means that your abilities are going to be low on cooldown, and most of the time your first ability is going to be the first ability that you're hitting towards enemy champions. So you're already reducing that cooldown by quite a lot, and you can reduce it by a further 10% if it's the first ability that you hit on an enemy champion. So even though the cooldown is going up, this doesn't really do anything at all. Base damage on the second ability only going down by 10. I guess it stops a little bit of the poke, but that's about it. And then the ultimate going up by up by 5 seconds at every single rank. I don't think these nerfs will be enough. I still think Kha'Zix will be very, very powerful. I do think other champions and other junglers will definitely look to be stronger as well, though. Obviously, like Viego, Lee Sin, Aatrox, Riven, these sort of champions are still going to be very, very strong. With Kha'Zix getting nerfed, of course, he's going to be going a little bit lower in terms of priority, but I still think he's going to be a great champion to pick up. And then finally, we get a nerf to Aurora. Not finally, there's another one afterwards. Whoops, forgot about that. Aurora. I definitely much need a nerf to her damage. Her damage is way too disgusting. You turn invisible with your second ability. You honestly use 1-3-1. And as soon as you use that combo, you one-shot anyone. You one-shot tanks, you one-shot bruisers, you one-shot supports, you one-shot AD carries, enemy mid laners. This damage was way too absurd and just really, really annoying to deal with. So I'm really happy they're nerfing the base damage on both the first ability and the third ability. I think this was much needed nerfs that probably should have happened a while ago, but it's better late than never. So 5 damage at every single rank on the first ability. Of course, you can activate this twice, so you can still do technically double damage. And then the third ability is going down by also 5 at every single rank. So this doesn't really mean too much. This means a little bit, of course, with twofold hex, because you got the base damage, and then you can pull back and do a little bit more damage as well. So 5 damage either way. I still think Aurora's just going to do too much damage, in my opinion. I think this champion is still going to be very, very strong next patch. And finally, this is actually finally this time, is Yone. Now, I don't really agree with these changes, in my opinion. I think we should just nerf the first ability damage full stop. I think the damage on this ability is just way too strong. Us reducing damage, reducing damage to jungle camps, yes, it's going to hurt his jungle clear, but his jungle clear was never fast anyway. That was never the problem with Yone. Yone can get invaded if people want to, because he has one of the slowest jungle clears, I think, in the whole game. I think only champions like maybe Gwen might be a little bit slower. But of course, with the 5% damage reduction, that's going to be even slower now in terms of clearing through the jungle. And of course, you spam your first ability a lot when clearing through the jungle. So this might increase your jungle clear speed by maybe 5 to 10 seconds, I would probably predict. But again, that's not the problem, in my opinion. The problem is that when you get to 1 or 2 items, and when you get that 100% crit chance, that's where the damage starts to come through. And that's where the first ability damage really starts to come through, and how annoying he can be. His safety net of his first ability, being able to jump in, do a bunch of damage, and then get away to safety, is just way too powerful, in my opinion. So I think they've really missed the mark on his first ability. I don't really agree with this at all. His jungle clear speed was slow anyway, so that was never really the problem. The problem is his overall damage in the late game is just way too high. Second ability change, though, is nice. This was actually nerfed and buffed, and now it's being nerfed again, because they nerfed this ability before a bit too much, and it basically killed Yone in top and mid lane. And this might do the same, to be honest with you. 20 base shield, and also the shielding got 15% less of bonus AD. I think this might kill Yone in solo lane, to be honest with you, and jungle might be the only lane that you can play Yone. This ability is so important when you're dashing forward and when you're going for trades, and it allows Yone to dash forward, to get a shield, and to get free trades every single time to win trades. So now this is being lowered by 20 base shield and also 15 bonus attack damage. It's pretty insane. But yeah, Yone mid lane and Yone top lane might not be as powerful as what it was before. This is an indirect nerf to Varus. 5 AD is obviously not going to do anything. They actually never needed to change the AD number. The AD number was never the problem with this item. It's the fucking AP number on this item, and also how much on-hit damage you get as well. So now with us Varus players, we're going to be getting 10 less AP. Will that mean anything? Absolutely not. The champion will still be broken. I'm very surprised that Varus doesn't get nerfed, by the way, in this patch, because he is my go-to ban every single time this patch. This patch is just Varus ban, Varus ban, Varus ban. It's always a Varus ban at the moment. So, and it still will be next patch, because this champion is just going to still be insane even with 10 less AP. Infinity Orb. So the Thunder Fall is the triggering of the AoE damage. Yeah, the triggering often repeatedly to deals massive AoE damage. So this doesn't actually affect the item itself. It only affects the passive, which is when you kill a target, you do that massive AoE damage. So it's actually not really a nerf to the item itself. I mean, the damage is getting a little bit lower, 10 base and also 10 ability power. So your AoE after you kill someone is not going to do that much damage. This item actually has insane synergy with a champion like Aurora that can just one-shot someone. And then what you could do is when you one-shot someone, you do that huge massive AoE damage, you then your second ability gets reset, you turn invisible, wait for your cooldowns, boom, you one-shot someone else. You can still do that. I don't think this damage is not going to mean too much. And again, the item itself is still very powerful. It still gives a lot of AP. It still gives that early magic pen, the plus magic pen instead of the percent magic pen, which is very important during the early game. So this will still be a very, very fine item. And then Soralda's Grudge, again, it's only the passive part of this item. This is weird because they kept on nerfing Mortal Reminder and they actually buffed Soralda's Grudge, because Mortal Reminder was just outperforming Soralda's Grudge in any case. Like every assassin would build Mortal Reminder, every bruiser would build Mortal Reminder. Now that got nerfed quite a bit. Now it doesn't give as much AD, it gives attack speed now, and the cost went up by 200. Now, for some reason, we're nerfing Soralda's Grudge because apparently, I guess this item is very powerful, which I guess is a little bit of a indirect nerf to assassins like Kha'Zix as well. The damage value is actually going down quite a bit, to be honest with you. 25 to 10, and then it's plus 2. It was plus 5 to 75. Now it's plus 2 to 30, and it only scales with 40% of your bonus attack damage. This will still give you anti-heal though, and the big thing is that this item will still be built. You cannot skip this item because it gives you the percent magic pen. It is so important to make sure that you still build this item. Even off this nerf, it's still going to be very, very powerful. So I don't think there's a, you know, yes, the damage goes down, but this is the slow damage over time when you hit someone with a certain amount of abilities. So I don't think this makes a lot of difference. And there's a bug fixes. Fix the bug where the attacks on nearby enemies triggered by Ash's first bacon attack when using Yordle's Hurricane dealt incorrect damage. Fix a bug that could cause elemental drakes to not despawn promptly when Elder Drake respawns. 2 versus 1 on Dragon, you say? Easy peasy. Yeah, as I said, just a small patch. Nothing really too major. Big things of course, Swain buff, which is pretty big. Kha'Zix nerf is going to be big. The same with Olaf as well. Aurora nerf is pretty nice as well. I'm not too sure what's going to happen with Yone jungle, but we'll have to see about that. And of course, his solar lane as well. And then items, in my opinion, don't really make a lot of difference. So yeah, just a quick reminder, this patch will be coming out on Friday. The patch preview for 6.3 is just around the corner. I have had a little glimpse of what's coming in patch 6.3, and I'm pretty excited to talk to you all about it. And then on Saturday this week, I will be streaming the Chinese PBE, going through all the changes like I always do with every single big patch, talking about new items, talking about item changes, champion changes, what's happening with the map, and what's going to be happening when patch 6.3 comes out in 2 weeks time. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Take care of yourselves, have a good rest of the day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.